Yes.
So before starting, do you have any concerns or any areas you want to learn more or something? Anyone? Okay, fine. So yeah, so today we'll try to understand why do we use ADF and what is the importance of ADF and what is the market value. So we'll try to see what are the prerequisites that we have to learn before going for ADF, and then we'll try to see a basic architecture like the architecture flow. Why is it different from different frameworks when we have many frameworks in the market? And then we'll try to see the environment where we develop our ADF applications. So we have something called as JDeveloper, which few might have been already known about it. And then we'll try to create a small sample application, and we'll try to understand how easy it is to build an applications. Okay, yeah. So let's start with it. Before starting, I'm myself Sashank here, and I have around 5 years of experience in Oracle ADF and Fusion applications. So I'm working on currently on Fusion applications, and I'm a consultant for different companies. So I'm working for different companies as an independent consultant also on ADF for giving the functional design patterns and everything. So I'm even a corporate trainer. Like I'll train for Infosys, and even I train for like Apple and Dell. This is my basic introduction. Yes. Yeah, Ramakrishna, just hold on. I'll tell you everything. Yeah. So why do we really require ADF to learn? Because we have many frameworks in the market. Like we have JSF, we have JSPs, we have many frameworks, right? Which are Java, which are open source. To be frank. So why we have to learn ADF? What is the importance of ADF first of all? And yeah, so when comes to Oracle ADF, it is developed in around 2009, which is the initial version of ADF, and this is basically used for commercial applications. So what are commercial applications? Like let's say we have the ERP applications, right? In the same way, we can build our own complex applications in this. When we see with any other frameworks, let's say if you have a Java framework, and if you take a business scenario, and it takes you around at least say let's say 6 months to build it in the same kind of application in Java. And if you take the same application, we can build the same kind of application within max of 3 months. Because here the advantage of going with ADF is you have everything inbuilt in it, which means that let's say if you want to create a DB connection in Java, you have to write a lot of Java coding there. You have to call the callable statements, you have to call the DB connections, and you have to execute every code there. But here everything is inbuilt in it. You don't need to worry about even creating the table structure. So it is all taken care here. Even if you want to interact with the let's say tables of views or anything, it is directly interacting with the database, and you can drag and drop it to the page. It will work fine. It will work according to the best practices in the current market. So it enables a rapid development framework. So which I mentioned you right. Like if you want to build an application which is the same business scenario in Java, it takes you around 6 months, and let's say the same application can be built in ADF within 3 months. It is completely web based. So even the if you see if you have anyone has got idea on Oracle Fusion applications, everything is web based and cloud based. So you find there we have used ADF extensively, and it is very easy to build complex applications. When we see with older versions of frameworks, it is not possible the same way. Kind of in. Yeah, hi. Sorry, I guess I lost my current here, power. So I reinstalled it again. So are you able to hear me now? Okay, fine.
Hello, Shishan.
Yes.
Okay. I'm just trying. Are you able to hear me?
Okay, yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
So why we have to go with ADF? Why is it so important now? As I mentioned you, the whole ERP, which is still now is in a standalone applications, are built completely on Fusion now, which is like everything is on cloud basis, and everything is on web basis. So everything here, the whole Fusion is built on ADF. So let's say even if you want to build a small application in let's say small page or something in the Fusion of apps, you have to go with ADF coding there. ADF applications only. There's no option under it, and it has gained the foothold of J2E market because it has become an open source. The basic version is open source. What it means is like, let's say you have a model view controller layer. So there are 3 layers in it, and these 3 layers are open source. But if you're trying to interact with some other applications, then it is not an open source. But the basic version is open source. So here everything is getting migrated to ADF within a short time because we have something called the ADF desktop applications also, which are like same Excel kind of thing. How we have this, we have publishers, right? So same thing can be done with ADF also. Uh, and it has, the cost efficiency is very low because if you take, as I mentioned again, if you take the development standpoint, it takes you very short time to build an application. But if you can compare to older applications or older frameworks or something, and one more efficient thing is here the architecture is everything is inbuilt in it. So you don't need to worry about the what are the best design patterns you have to implement it and what are the best practices you have to implement in ADF. It is all taken care in ADF. And here it supports web services and it is even used in BPM. So you not even BPM, it is even used in Fusion apps. It is used in web center portals. So there are many frameworks which are built upon this. So it's an advantage to learn ADF so that you can have a migration of combination of both ADF with Oracle apps or ADF with BPM or ADF with SOA or ADF with Web Center portal. So any of these combinations will pay you very badly when it is very hugely demanded now. And as I mentioned you, that is an open source, which means that let's say there's something called as model view control architecture. Let me just explain you that in a few brief levels. So let's say this is your application. So you have a UI page here, right? And you have a database. So how do you interact with this and how do you display the data? How do you do the transactions? So this whole thing is defined into 3 parts. Like in every modern frameworks, you find this kind of architecture. So what they do is they have they have a model layer where we define our let's say the employee tables or any of the tables here or any of the APIs and or let's say web services or something. So they'll try to interact with the UI. Whatever what you want to display it, and from there, where do you want to navigate? Which page you want to navigate is done through controllers. Okay, so this kind of framework is an open source. Let's say if you want to, if you have designed this ADF application and you want to interact with some external system, like let's say BPM or OBI, if you want to define anyone has got any idea on OBI here? Okay, okay. So we generally use OBI for BI applications. Like we have something called as ETL tools and everything. So where we try to have a staging data, where we want to have some staging data which is only required for designing, for viewing the graphical view of the whole sales. Like let's say we have a sales department, so how are sales going on? So you can see all the high level understanding on every layer through graphical views and pictorial views. This is done in through OBI here. It is basically done through business analyst. So this is more oftenly we can so basically, let's say what happens is we can create our applications in OBI, like the graphical views and everything, and then we can just directly import that to the ADF pages. So we can even do that, but it is a little costlier here. We have to pay for it. Okay. So what is the difference between ADF and OAF? Why we have to go with ADF when we have OAF with us? I guess someone has asked me this question. So the answer is that it is generic framework, which means that you can build your own applications in this with the use of ADF. But when it comes to OAF, it is very closely coupled with the EBS applications, ERP, right? We cannot build our own applications with OAF. And here it uses most advanced concept called as ADF phases. So what happens here is you can have everything as a component based, which means that let's say if you want to have an input text component, you can directly drag and drop it here, and you have most advanced the HTML content and even the CSS content in already inbuilt in it. But here, if you see with OAF, it is the old UIX framework here, and we have around 180 plus faces components in ADF, which is not available in OAF. So we'll see that in a few minutes. We'll see the how do we design the UI and everything, and how easy it is to build application there. And here everything is declarative. What it means is, let's say you want to navigate from page A to page B. So how do you do it in OAF? Anyone has got any idea on this? On OAF side? Okay. So you might have known like we have to write an action and action listener, action controllers, and then you have to maintain it, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So yes. So we have to write a lot of Java coding here, and we have to implement this kind of a small scenario. It is a basic scenario, like moving from page A to page B, but we have to define everything in the controller. But here, you just need to drag and drop the two pages and link up these two pages with an arrow, with just a marking component, and it will work fine. Then you can directly move from this page to this page automatically. And even the DB design, let's say the DB access, you have something called as database navigator here. It will work according to the DB design patterns here. You can get the handle of every table or every view or every package. You can get everything here into the ADF. And it is extensively used in Fusion apps. So because till now we have used R12 and 11i. So we have been using this, and we have used all the forms and reports here. But when it comes to ADF, it is completely web-based. So you can generate your forms or reports, everything in ADF itself. When it comes to reports, it is again there's a lot of many things in the report part, but here we can use most of the scenarios which we wanted to use it in ADF. And here we have something called a design time page editor. So what it means is, if you have an OAF application, you have designed some OAF application and you wanted to see the output of it. So how it looks and everything. Like let's say you have a design of the page and you want to have a button in the right side. So if you want to build this kind of a small scenario, you have to deploy the application and see it out, right? But here in ADF, we can directly see it out before deploying the application, before running the application. You can see the content, how it looks in the real-time scenario. So which is again an advanced version here. It requires a little bit of Java coding here when it comes to ADF, and when it comes to OAF, it is not at all required. I mean, so it is like you have to use very extensively. The reason why it is going with very little Java coding is that everything is inbuilt, as I mentioned you. So everything is component based here. So you don't need to worry about any Java coding here. And many say that you don't even need to write in Java coding in ADF, but it is wrong. In real-time scenarios, it is that you have to work on a lot of Java coding, not small things, but yes, enough Java coding is required here. And you might ask me then do I have to learn learn Java and everything? No, I would say no. We just need to understand the conceptual understanding of ADF with Java. We are just trying to use Java inside the ADF. We're not working on Java here. So till now, any questions here? Anyone? Okay.
Hi, Jason.
Yeah, hi.
Hello. Shashank, to build many vast big applications, we need to write Java code in ADF also.
Yes, yes. So we generally work on Java itself. So many you
Yeah,
might have
no,
seen like yeah. Tell me.
just now you said that we need a small coding language also.
What's that?
We just now you said that you should Java coding is not required that
No,
much.
no. See, it is very little required here. Little Java coding is
Okay,
required. What
compared
what
to
little means is when compared to OAF. Yeah. Can you mute yourself? Yes, I'm hearing a lot of echo. Yeah. Okay. So when compared to OAF or any other frameworks which are built on Java, you find that this is very little required here. Let's say you want to interact with the database, you don't need to write a Java coding for it. But let's say if you want to navigate from page A to page B, or if you want to write some table content, display some table content, you don't need to write any Java coding here. You want to have a link here and in the page, and you want to navigate from page A to page B, or you want to do some dynamic navigations. So you don't need to write any Java coding here. But in real time, yes, see, every customer, the ADF is a generic framework, which means that the most commonly used are given with a drag and drop approach.
yeah.
And every client doesn't want to have this, right? So every client won't have the same kind of table, same kind of architecture, or same kind of UI. It is not possible to have every client to have the same kind of architecture. So everyone wants to go with their own customizations. So
Okay.
then at that point of time, we have to go with Java coding. So I'll show you my application, and many say that it is only drag and drop, but no, I would say it is more about Java coding than the drag and drop. And you have to know that basic concept, then you can play with ADF. You have to know some basics of binding level content and everything, which is very good to understand it. And if you know that, you can master the ADF very easily. We'll be covering our Java coding also in the classes.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, okay, Shashank.
Yeah. Okay. So now comes to what is Oracle ADF. So it enables developers to focus on the application, not on the low-level infrastructure. So what it means is, as I mentioned before, all the low-level infrastructure is already defined for this, which means that, like, let's say DB connection, or the create or getting the handle of the tables or the views, or let's say creating the data controls or everything. So basically, if you want to create a data control, you have to right click on it and create data controls and everything. But here it is taken care of, everything is taken care in it, and it is completely declarative. So what it means is, like, you can drag and drop the contents, you can display the content, you can see the contents very well defined with high level of HTML and CSS contents here, and everything is XML based. So what it means is, let's say you have a
Hey
table.
Shashank,
Yes,
just one question.
yes.
So when we are building this ADF Fusion applications for different ERP systems, do we have to have a different kind of adapters specific to that ERP, or is it generic for everything?
You mean to say about the data interaction?
Correct. So let's say if I have built a page, so I want to deploy it to SAP application, or I want to deploy it to connect with the EBS application. So will
Okay.
there be any difference in the deployment or any kind of
No.
special adapters needed, or is it?
So when it comes to this part here, let's say the ADF application is generic one, so you can use it in any of the frameworks, any of the ERP applications. Let's say if you want to use it in Fusion apps, what you need to do is you have to deploy this as the application itself, and they'll generate a web service for it, and they'll try to interact with the EBS applications in the Fusion. But when it comes to SAP, I'm not really sure because I never worked on a SAP site.
Okay.
But generally what happens is, if you want to have a EBS connectivity, like if you already have an R2L application and you want to add this ADF application inside the R2L, then you have to go with SSOs. You have idea on single sign-on?
Right.
Yeah. So we have to go with that approach. And one more
Okay.
thing is, let's say, and so again, there are multiple ways for it. Like, let's say if you want to have it as just a link and you want to enter into a different path, different navigation, and you want to do it, you can just give the URL path there. It will work fine, the EBS. But if you want to, let's say, you have SAP data and you want to display this data in the Fusion Apps ADF application. So let's say Fusion Apps itself. So you have to create a web service for it, and one more thing you have to do is you have to get the data, but through AIIS. You have idea on AIA?
No.
send everything. Okay, so we have something called as mediators here. It is nothing but a mediator. Where, let me give an example here. 1 second. Yeah. So let's say this is a SAP application.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So here let's take there are two things. One is customer ID and customer name. A small example. And in our EBS or Fusion apps, we have something called as a customer same, but it is the customer uh, name or customer ID with a different naming convention here, like the CID and CNAME. Okay. So now if you see this, both are same here, but thing is that they have different naming conventions. So what Oracle has done is they have created something called as PIPs, PIP, which is built in inbuilt in ADF. So inbuilt in the AIA. So what this will do is this is already automatically inbuilt in the AIA. So what this will do is they'll have inbuilt packages for interacting with SAP and EBS. So this will have its mediators saying that like if it is equal to customer ID, then pass the data to the CID. It will have this content inside this customer name with the C name. So they'll provide you this with a little amount of you have to pay for it for this pips. So you can directly take this one and link up with these two things. It will work fine automatically. It will automatically migrate everything. Let's say if you have your own customized attributes, then you have to write your own code for it. This way.
Okay.
So, but writing for this Java, we have tried Java code here, saying that I mean again the same thing what you have done here, right? We will try to get this data and say this data is equal to this data, pump it up. So we'll write some SQL loaders here. It will work fine.
Okay. So we are saying that we cannot have a integrated into EBS, but it will be a separate system altogether, which keeps communicating to
Yes.
EBS system all the time. Okay.
Yeah.
So what if I want to create a page, a single page,
Yes.
which can be invoked from one of the EBS pages or
Uh,
something like that?
Yes. So there are,
Can we do that?
I mean, see, as I mentioned, you like Oracle ADF is closely coupled with Fusion apps, and let's say if you want to use this in let's say EBS application, we can use OAF. But in case if you want to really go with ADF, then what you have to do is you have to go with single sign-on. So let's say if it is just a generic page which doesn't require any credentials, then you can directly have a link in it through OAF page. OAF link, you can create it a link in it in the page, and you can directly navigate it from there. But if you want to go with navigator section, then you have to, and it is a different way again. It is again you have to go with SSOs and everything there. It is a different approach.
Oh,
Very huge process, but generally we will not go with that approach. If it is a single sign-on, then it is very easy to implement.
okay.
If you require, I'll send you some document design patterns for it. There are multiple ways to integrate with EBS and ADF, which is
Okay.
not possible in like a small application level something. But if you have a very huge application, huge requirement, then generally they'll go with the ADF. But a very small page or something, then they'll go with OAF itself.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, Niranjan, you are right. We can even do it with SOA. So it is basically SOA itself there. Okay. Chiranjeevi, yeah, PIP is like it is like almost as a web service, but internally, so it will have the mappings of every, like let's say SAP and SAP with EBS or PeopleSoft with EBS or anything. It is a generic one there.
Okay. What is the PIP abbreviation, sir?
Even I'm not sure because I never worked on it.
Okay, okay.
It is just mapping kind of thing. Maybe I guess Niranjan can answer this question because he worked on it, I guess.
Okay, sir.
PIP. Okay. Yes, it's part of AI. And he wanted to know the name of it, abbreviation of it. Oh, okay, fine. If you want, I can just mail you out later on. Yeah. So it again comes back to the concept. It even abstracts the complexity. So what it means is, sorry. So if you want to have, let me, as I mentioned before, right? We have this three layers. One is model layer, view layer, control layer. So this is a model layer, this is a view layer, this is a control layer. There are three parts in this: view controller, and model layer. So here, ADF maintains some kind of abstraction. So what it means is, like, let's say if you have a DB data here, if you want to do any interaction or transactions, you'll do only here. You'll not do this in the UI page. Generally, this is what follows in every framework, but here it is more generically made. It is all inbuilt in it. If you want to do any navigation, you can only do it in the controller part. If you want to do in display any data, you can display data, or let's say a query based data, or let's say a form based data. So you can do it only in the UI page. You can do only the DB transactions or retrieval, or let's say querying database. All these things can be done only in this page. Let's say I have a requirement, I have entered some text component and I have a button. So I entered some data, let's say department ID. Okay. Yeah. So department ID, text component. So I entered the department ID as 50 there. I clicked on the button. So what this will do is, it will not try to retrieve the data from this UIP itself, like let's say backing bean or something. It will try to get the handle of this model layer, and in the model layer it will try to execute a query saying that, passing this ID into the model layer, the entered ID, will execute the code there. So there is an abstraction in every layer here. It will not link up both this like model layer with the view layer and everything. Everything is different here. And here you can maintain reusable components. So what it means is, let's say you have a sequence. Let's say I have first page, second page, third page. I have these three pages here. Let's say. So I'm using this kind of flow in. So let's say this kind of forms, the three flow of forms. Next. So I'm using this kind of requirement in multiple pages. Let's say a home page or a entry level page. So I'm using this in two pages. So now generally what we do, we create this scenario here and here, right? But here what you can do is, you can just create the scenario one time and drag and drop it onto this page, and here also you can drag and drop it. So the reusability is very high in it. You just build it one time, you can use it multiple times. And everything is maintainable code. So what it means is, all the code you wanted to do for the DB interaction, you do it in the model layer. I'll tell you this when we come to the programming side. And as I mentioned you before, it uses the best practices and design patterns. So we'll try to understand what is it in a very few minutes. Yeah. So when it comes to the architecture part, let me take an example better than this. So let's understand in layman terms. Let's say I have a database here and I have an employees table in it. So now I want to display some data in the UI page, and let's say this is a UI page, right? So I have a table here which should be formatted, right? Because I cannot directly display this data in the UI page, so I have to format it. But formatting and a specific approach. So I have something called as business services layer. Okay, sorry. Okay, fine. So we have this is called as data source. So the data source can be anything here. It can be a database or in APIs or package applications. It can be anything. And after getting this, let's say this employees table, I'll interact with the database here in this from this point and get the handle of employees tables. But I want to display this employees table into the UI page as a table. Okay, so I want to display a table here. This is the UI page. Think about a view layer. Okay, so now if I want to interact with this data into the UI page, I have to do some operation here, right? Some approaches. So we can generally do it with either a Java. You can create a Java entities, or let's say we can even get the handle of ADF business components. So which I'll tell you in a few minutes. ADF business components, or we can get the handle of web services. So if you have an external application, you can do it with web services. You can even do it with OBIE. Okay, you can even do it with BIPL, BAM, or EJBs. So there, if you see this, there are multiple technologies it has been used it here, right? If you see any framework, we only generally use it with Java or let's say a web service or something, right? But here, if you see this, there are multiple things which are working on. And if you're very good at Java, then you can directly use this Java entities and work on it. If you're very good at EJBs, you can even use EJBs there. So here it is taking multiple inputs, right? This table is represented in the form of Java or ADF business components. So what are these things? Don't worry about this. I'll tell you in detail later on. But let's think this as a component based. Like we have something called entities here, entity objects inside this, view objects, and an AEM. These three are important parts in the ADF business components. And Oracle recommends to go with ADF business components because everything is component based and it is already maintaining some standards in it. Okay, so now we have an employees table here. I have modified according to my required technology, services layer, and I have my UI page. So let's say I have dragged and dropped it here. So what we generally do it from the model layer. Sorry, we have something called a model layer here. So which is maintaining some standards called JSR 227. You might ask me what is this? I'll tell you in a few minutes, very few minutes. So I have created my content here. Let's say it is through ADF business components or through Java Pojo entities, and I create a model project for it. So from the model, I'll try to drag and drop to the page. Okay. So after doing this, you find something unique here. Any ideas what is it? If you see here, I'm taking the output as constant one here, right? Because you have many technologies inside this. It can be any technology, but I'm passing the output as constant one. But inputs are multiple here, right? So this technology, what it will try to do is, it will try to convert everything into XMLs. Everything into XMLs. So what happens when you use XMLs here? This becomes XML content here, and what happens is here we have a lot of portability, right? I got my point here. Anyone has got any questions here? Okay, fine. So this will try to. Yes.
One question, Shashank.
Yes.
Yeah. Here, data source is there.
Okay.
Instead of they are using web services.
Okay.
I mean, in that point, what is the business service? Actually, they are not using any tables.
Okay.
But they are providing some web services.
Okay. How do you provide a web service? Is it from
Yeah.
how do you display the data in the web service?
Yes.
No. I mean, my question is that how do you get the data from the web service? So there should be a source for it for the web service also, right?
No, Shashank. Actually, they are providing web services.
Okay.
Based on that, how can we create the model?
Yeah.
Components. I mean.
So we'll directly interact. We'll start from here. Let's start from here
Okay.
itself. So we don't need this one because they're already maintaining it, right? So we don't need this one. We only walk from here, the services layer. We create the data control for it. We go drag and drop it in the page.
Okay.
So we'll anyways work on our classes. Will try. Okay. Can you mute yourself? Sorry. I guess I'm hearing a lot of echo.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So So in our class we'll try to work on this kind of application. Like take an example of Java entities. We'll mostly work on the ADF business components in depth. We'll work on the web service part because in the Fusion apps we use web services only, and we even use business components a little bit. But yes, the web service is the main part here, and we'll try to work on the EJBs also. We'll work on this most commonly used things. EJB they generally not use it, but let's say if we have very old applications where they initially built this EJB models, then we have to go with the EJB as an input for it. Okay, so but here technology can be anything here, but if you see this, everything is converted to XML here and passed as an output to the UI page. So what you find in the UI pages is only XMLs, right? So what happens now? You can use any technology into this and you can work on the UI part. So it is a technology independent here. You don't worry about, let's say, you are very good at Java, I can work on it through Java itself. If you're very good at the ADF business component or a web service, you can work through it. So as per your requirement, you can work accordingly here. So this is the flow of the architecture. One is a data source layer, then service layer, model layer, view layer. But there's something called as control layer here. So what this will do is, this will try to use for navigation. So we have something called as task flows here. Yeah. So this task flows is used for, like let's say, you want to navigate from page A to page B in conditional navigation. Let's say the logged in user is an employee, so he should be able to see only employee data. If he's a manager, so he should be able to see employee, his employees under him. So this kind of requirements where we to have conditional navigations can be done through task flows. We'll see this thing also. So any questions here? Anyone till this point? Okay. So let's come back to the point and see the same thing here. So here, see this. It can be the data service layer. This can be anything. This kind of application relation database or XML content or something. And then from here, we'll create our services layer. From here, it starts the metadata services. What it means is, this completely is an XML. Okay. So this whole part is an XML here. It converts everything here into XMLs again. And this will be shown in the UI page to the control layer or directly to the UI page. As I mentioned you, right, we even have desktop applications, which is not so oftenly used, is very rarely used, like around 2% of 100%. I have seen only one client using this till now. So we generally not go with, because we have many open source applications for it and very easy ways to do it. So it is not that we can do it, but when we go to Fusion apps, then we might have to use it a little bit. Yeah. So here, if you see this in the browser part, we have ADF faces, JSF and JSPs, right? So what is this JSF here? Why are we using this here? Because ADF is built upon JSF. It is not that it is built a newly one. It is just upon the JSF components. So we already have JSF components which are inbuilt in ADF. You can even see that in the ADF application very soon. Okay. So let me come back to this point. Yes. So before starting the application, we have to understand the environment where we develop application, right? So we have something called as JDeveloper here, which we generally work in our training. We'll be working on application called as 11.1.7. This is a version which we work on because it's the most stable version. And after this, there are multiple versions. Like we have 11.1.2. This is also stable, and we have 12C. The 12C is not so stable yet, but we have got a recent release of 12.1.3, which we will work on our application also, like the last classes. One 1.6 is an older version, Chiranjeevi. It's very old. We generally go with 1.7 because there are many new upgrades in the 1.7 when compared to 1.6, because we have something called as pagination concept, which is very most prominently used in the client level applications, which is not defined till 11.1.6. And there are many more like bust views, like table views. There are many things there. The 11.1.7. So we'll be working on 11.1.7 and we'll be seeing the new features of 12.1.3 also. Okay, so these are version naming conventions. I'll send you some documents on it, how to install it and how do you work on it. Yeah, so before going forward, there are a few things like we have to understand what are all these things before going to the application level content. So first thing is application navigator. So where we define our application here. We define all the application contents and everything in this. And how do you interact with the database? Through database navigator. Let's say if you're writing some Java code, you'll go with editor part. I'll show you all those things, don't worry. And as I mentioned, right, everything is declarative and component based. So we'll drag and drop all the components from the component palette. And as I mentioned, right, we'll be trying to interact with the external applications. Let's say a jar file, you want to add it out in your application. Or let's say you have an OBI application, you want to add it in the ADF page. Then we'll be going up with the resource palettes. Data control is something that, let's say you have defined your employee table in the services layer, and you want to drag and drop it to the page, to the UI page. Then we'll go with data controls. So data controls is a place where we already define what data you want to display it in the UI page, and then you will try to drag and drop it. Structure window is used for designing the layout. So let's say you have multiple layouts, right? So I'll show you the very complex applications also, where we try to build our application. So it is very complex to build a button inside a button, or let's say inside, just side of the button. If you want to define some complex layouts, then you go with structure windows. And property inspector is nothing but like how we pass the input methods, right? Like let's say if you have a component, input text component. Okay, so you want to increase the width of it. You want to name this component. You want to say default value for it, or you want to have background color of some color. So all these are inputs, right? So all the inputs can be given through property inspector. Not only for input text, but for all the components which are there in the component palette. Okay, and we have something called log window, which is generally used for all our logging contents. Like how do you log the content, everything. This. So we'll see all these things in a few minutes now. Okay, so let me go back to the application now. Okay, so this is my real-time scenario. I'll explain in the last class, like how did I implement this in the real time. I'll show you everything in this. So this is the environment where we define our applications. So in this, as I mentioned, right, first thing is, let's go back and see application navigator. So this is the place where we define our application. So how do you get into this? It is by default shown to you, but in case it is not shown here, just go to view and you find application navigator here. Click on this. It'll come back to this point. So you'll have all the projects here and all the content inside, whatever is required here. And other one is database navigator, right? So let's say you want to create a database connection for your application, for your project. So how do you define it? Go to the view, database, and database navigator. So click on this. It'll try to show you the content. So this many applications have created it. And if you see here, there are global connections. These are all global connections. So what it means is you can use this, you can create this application, create this database connectivity at one time, and you can use it in multiple applications. Let's say you want to use it in this application. So you can directly use this content here. Okay. So this is globally defined. I'll show you this in next class. How do you implement it and everything. Editor is, as I mentioned you before, right? If you write some Java coding or something, let me just show you. If you write some Java coding here, it'll try to create an editor format. So let me just show you that also. So if you want to only go with, I guess there's some issue with this. See this. It try to show you the flow of this. This continues from till point this point. This is only for this point here to here. The look and feel is very good to understand and development point standpoint. So this is where we use this editor part. And component palette is, go to the again view, same thing. Component palette, you find here. So see this. If you see this in the UI page, in terms of UI page, let me go to UI page once. It's taking a little time to load it. You can see it here. It is loading out all the components. So until unless this is loaded out, you won't see, we're able to see any components here. See this. This is a page of a small page I've created it, and you'll find all the component whichever you can drag and drop it. Let's say if you want to drag and drop a button here, it does directly do it here. If you want to do some calendar component, you can directly do it out here. So it is most advanced one, and we can create whatever is required here through the component palette. Another one is resource palette. So as I mentioned, right? Let's say if you have a jar file, or let's say if you have your own OBI application where you want to integrate in the ADF page, so you can directly go here, create a new one, new connection. So for BAM or BPM or some file system or so MDS or URL, so you can just create it out and drag and drop it here. So I have created some jar files here. I can apply these jar files in my application now automatically. Okay. So other one is the data control. So here, if you see this in this application, I have departments and employees, right? So I'll be able to see the same thing here. So what is data control? Any ideas? Anyone?
It will create an instance of database.
Yeah. Okay. So anyways, we'll be entering into this more depth very soon, next classes. But for high level understanding, this comes under the model layer, right? If you see the model layer here, it is trying to convert everything to XMLs, right? And you can drag and drop it to the UI page. So the place where we can drag and drop it is this one, this way. So I'll tell you this in a few minutes again. And other one is a structure window property inspector. Property inspector is something that, as I mentioned, you can pass some inputs, right? Let's say we have a button component, and what is the name you want to give it for button? 1 second. Yeah. So you can just give the naming conventions or icon modifications or any listeners for it. Like let's say the moment we click on this button, what should happen, and how do you want to look and feel of this? You can just define it here. What is the background you want to give it for color of this button, and you want to partially submit it or immediately do it out. So everything can be done in this button component. I'll tell you all those things later on. Okay. So structure window is something that used for designing the page here. Let's see here. We'll try to show you the whole page design. See this. The outermost content is this one, and the outermost one is this one here. Then we have this one. Then we have internally a group layout and then button components. So in order to build a layout components, then you have to go with this one, which is very complex when you see in real times. We'll see many complex applications there. Then we have to understand some design patterns for it. We'll see that in our next classes. Log window is something that, again, go to the log. So you find the log here. See this. If you run an application, I'll try to show you the log window here. What are the log you have it? So before that, I'll start my application first of all, server. Okay. So now let's try to build a small application for us. We'll try to see how easy it is to implement a page kind of thing in ADF. Yeah. So let's go step by step now. First of all, let's go with the architecture base. So this is the architecture I want to build it out. And for that, first thing is I want to have a workspace, right? So let me create a workspace. Go to application, web application here, and click on OK. So let's name it as ADF Hello World EMP. Just give some name here and click on next. So here if you see this, there's a product creating with the model name by default. So it is by default selecting ADF business components and Java, right? So how is it doing out? Any ideas? Anyone? Why is it taking only these two things by default? Okay, so if you see this part here, this whole part is considered as oops, what happened to this? Yeah. Okay, so this whole part is done in the model layer, the model project. Okay, and this will extend till the half of the controller part. I'll tell you this later on, but don't worry. This part is defined in the model project. So what are these things? ADF business component. Where do we have this ADF business components? We have it in our successes layer, right? So we will be able to find out all these things here. And what happens when we take this one? All the required libraries, like what are the libraries we have it, we'll be able to see it out here. Okay. And next thing is it will define some package structure here, which we'll see that later on. And if you see this view controller, so what is the view controller? View layer and controller layer, right? These two are created in one project again, which has got by default ADF faces, ADF page flows, Java, HTML. So all by default required for the ADF application are stored here. So what happens here if you take this, all the required libraries will be stored here. jar files. Okay, let's move forward and click on finish. Yes, Raj. You have one question? I didn't get you. What does generated component mean?
Hello?
Yes,
Hello?
Raj. Yes, Raj.
Yeah. While creating the model and view layer, view controller also,
Okay.
in that libraries are there.
Yes.
The next, before that, one tab is there, that is generated components.
Generated components.
Yeah.
This one?
This one. Yeah, that is generated, right? Generated
Yeah.
components, right?
So if you have any of the technology which is not there, you can just define it here. You can add a jar file in this component. It'll automatically show it here. But this is not generally used out. It is only that
Okay.
we have enough components here. See this. If you want to go with EJBs or any of the components, you'll be able to find it out here.
Okay. If we want to add another component, we
Yes.
can use this tab. Okay.
Yeah. So basically, we'll add it in our jar file there, and we'll be able to see it out here.
So that will be used in our model layer.
Model layer.
Okay.
But I would say we have enough things here. Don't worry about anything beyond this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Actually, some frameworks, I mean, predefined, pre-owned frameworks are there. their own set of things are there.
Yes.
So in that scenario, they will use the
Yes.
generator components. Okay. Fine.
Okay. So let's come back again, and I have created the model project and view control project. So what it means, I have model layer content in this, services layer content in this, and view control projects in this one. Okay. So let me create now. So what I have to do now, first thing is I've created a workspace now for this. What is first next step is? What is next step? Any ideas, anyone? Connected to the database, right? This part, first part. So let's do it now. Right click on this and say new ADF business components and business components from tables. Click on this OK. So now it is asking me to connect to the database first thing, because in order to get the this business service layer, we have to go through tables, right? So let me do it out. Let me create a new database. So this is what I mentioned. In order to connect to the database, it is very easy to do it here. Just need to click, give it as XC database here. Sorry. And what is HR schema, which I'm using it out, and give it as localhost and XC. This is by default things. Test it out. Click on OK. Yes, we can connect to any other databases here. Let me just show you. See this here. But one thing is that if you want to connect to any of the databases here, we have to add a jar files later on. Let's say if you have taken a SQLite or MySQL, you have to add its own Java class, the jar files here. But for Oracle JDBC, it is by default created. Okay, yeah, and so let's move forward. Click on OK. So it's connected to the database now. And what it will do, it will try to show you the tables in the database. So these are like, you have a schema here. Let me give it as employees percentile. It hits the database and retrieves the employees data. So click on this, move forward. Don't worry about all these things. I'll tell you this later on when we go to the real time. So let's take this employees table now and move forward. Finish it. Straightforward approach. So save this one. Okay. Now we have created the required services layer for us, right? Because we have created an ADF business component, entity objects, view object, and AM. See here. Expand this, you'll find entity objects here, view objects here, and our application module here. So this is all created in one shot. Okay. Now if you want to drag and drop this to the page, we have to have a page, right? We should have a page. So let me go and create a page here in the view layer, because a view project has got the pages, right? Right click on this and say new, a JSF page. So I'll tell you this later on what are all these things internally, but let's go with a basic application end to end. So click on OK page and give some name for it. Hello world. And yeah, just go with some template here. This is by default given by them. So it's creating the template by default now. See this, the template is already defined by Oracle itself and given to us. And let's say if you want to create your own template, you can even define that. Okay, now I have got the page now, I have got a view layer, I have got the services layer, I have got data source, and I've done everything, right? Now I need to drag and drop from the model layer. So how to do it? As I mentioned you, right, everything is XML based here. So if you see this, go to data controls here, expand this, you'll find your content here. You can directly drag and drop to the page, saying it as a ADF table, a read-only table. Click on OK. And say you want to have a single row, enable sorting filtering. I'll tell you this, what are they in a few minutes now. Just remove unwanted things, like I don't want to have this total, full name, email, phone number. Okay, so we have basic content here, and let's click on OK. Okay, see this. This is what I mentioned, right? You remember this design time layout? So you can see how does the page look like before loading the page itself. So this is the way it looks out, and the background color is not effective here because of some screen issues here. But generally, we'll have a bluish colored background. Okay, so let's try to see this. Now we are done with it. We're done with the application creation now. What you can do is right click on this page and say run. So it will deploy this application as a EAR file into the server, which is integrated with this environment. So it is deploying now. This is a log file which I mentioned you. See this? It's creating a var file and jar file and then deploying it as an EAR file now in a few minutes. So it is deployed now here, and it is generating a URL for us automatically. And if you see the URL, this is the URL. See here. This is a page which we have defined, right? See this. It created the layout automatically with a better look and feel, and it is showing all the data inside this, right? So if you see this, if you want to have this first name in the first, or let's say this employee in the last, drag and drop it here. If you want a hierarchical view, ascending or descending order, so you can even have this here. If you want to filter the data, saying that the salary is equal to 5,000, it'll work fine. See, if you want to have some default content, okay, let me just leave it off. So this way, in order to build this kind of application, how much time will it take for you in Java? This is a basic one. I'm not saying about complex things, but a basic thing. It will take at least 2 days, right? Or let's say 1 day, approximately. But it took me around not even 5 minutes to complete this application. So this is the advantage of going with ADF, and that's why that's the only reason why many companies are trying to move to ADF now. And one more reason is that here, if you see this, everything is standardized. I didn't write any Java coding here. So if you find any performance issues, it means that you are writing some Java code for it and you are facing some issues here. But everything is inbuilt in it. So the standards are already maintained in the ADF. Like how do you retrieve the data from here? How do you maintain the data in this? All these things are maintained by Oracle ADF itself. So the standards are already maintained and performance tuning is not an issue here. Okay. So any questions still here? Anyone?
Hello?
Yes, Raj.
Hello?
Yes, Raj.
Yeah, where can we do the performance tuning
You're
for
seeing,
this application? Can we, yeah.
yeah. So basically, there are 3 levels again. In the entity level, or let's say then let me just go here and show you. We can do it in this level.
Okay.
The services layer. and we can do it in the view layer. These two areas. So let's say you want to retrieve only 10 records. So if you see here, this is a very small page, it is a very small application, right? You have got a max of 100 records. But let's say if you do the same thing in a very huge application, where we have AEBS application, order management content, where we have some lakhs of records, right? So which is very difficult if you do it in this way. So what we will do is we'll maintain the pagination concept here in this, saying that we'll have first 10 records and then I click on the next thing, it will load the next 10 records. So we'll try to maintain that kind of links. And let's say we have different types of tabs here. Can you
Actually, in our in our application, we are using ADF DC components.
Yes.
Suppose if we use web services,
okay.
On the time, where can we?
We have to do it in the services layer itself, on the data loading itself, not here.
Data loading in the sense table.
Yes. So basically, we have to do it in the web service part only, like saying that we have to retrieve only this many data. So if we get the web service WSDL file, we cannot do anything, right? We cannot do anything from the WSDL level.
Yes.
We have to do it in the backend.
Yes. Once developed, once generated the web service, you cannot do.
Yeah. But,
So in that web service, we cannot do any tuning. We cannot apply any tuning performance.
The only tuning this can be done is like we can load only when we require it. Let's say we have different tabs. I'll show you. Anyways, I'll show you that example in the real time. But let's say we have, let me give an example here, new, 1 second. We have, let's say this is a page, sorry. This is a page. So we have multiple tabs here. Let's say we have 3 tabs here. So every tab has got its own data, very huge data, very complex data and everything, like complex UI designing and everything. So if you have to load this page, it will take a lot of time to load, right? Because this 3 should be loaded out at one time. So what we can do is we can stop this to load it out until unless we click on this tab, we'll be able to load the content. We can do that way. Got me, right? So instead of loading all these 3 things at one time, we can load only when required. We can do that sort of conditional loading on the UI level. So there are multiple, there are many things also to consider it. Like let's say, how do you load the VO is also important here. We'll see that in the performance tuning part in the class. Okay. Yeah. So any questions anymore? Okay. Just hold on. I'll try to show you the what we discuss in the class in a few minutes. For 5 minutes. Okay, sorry, are you able to see my screen now? Okay, yeah. So we'll be covering. It'll take around 6 weeks to complete this complete training. So where we'll be covering the mostly certification part. I'll send you some SurveyMonkey links so that you have to work on some content. Like we'll have multiple choice questions where you have to resolve the questions there. I'll send you every week, and you have to work on it, and you have to send back to me. It will automatically get back to me, but you have to resolve the issues there. This is what I'll do it for certification part, and we were working on many case studies, not only it, but case studies in the sense like we'll try to take one scenario and we'll work on those requirements. And at the end of the whole class, we'll work on an end-to-end example, where we'll try to cover the whole end-to-end flow, what all we discussed till now. And we'll try to see the new features of the developer in depth. And we'll try to understand the architecture components of every level, like entity level, view level, multiple view objects, and application modules. Then we'll go depth inside every component again. Like we'll try to understand what is persistence in how do you maintain the persistence in the EO level, and how do you modify the content inside that? How do you synchronize the data? Let's say you have defined your EOs, entity objects, now in this way. and then later on you found that you wanted to add one more column into the table. Then again you have to rebuild it, right? So, but we don't need to rebuild it. We can directly do it through some concept called as synchronization, which we'll see that today. We'll see that in the next class. We'll try to work on the view objects like in depth. We'll try to work on many things here. And after completing all those things, then we'll go with the AM part, application module. We'll try to test all those things in the tester. So what happens here generally, one more advantage with the ADF is, let's say you have defined all your VOs, EOs and everything, and then you found that you want to test this VOs before loading it to the page. You want to test it out before itself, how the data will be displayed. So for that we have something called as AM browser, AM application module browser, or testing service methods. So we can do that in the AM level itself. And then if you found everything going fine, then you can drag and drop it to the page. So we'll try to see how do we determine the size of the AM very well in depth. We'll try to see the architectural point of view. Then we'll go with the business validations, like what are different kinds of validations, where different levels of validation we do it. We'll try to go with Groovy support there. How do you define a Groovy support? Then after completing this understanding on the basic concepts very strongly, then we'll enter into the programming part. And here we'll be going very depth inside this, very close to real-time scenarios. Because I'll even after completing this course, I'll try to show you what all we learned is really worth it or not. Because I have my real-time application with me, and I'll try to compare the data, what all we learned till now is worth it or not. Because we'll try to see the same things in the application also. So we'll try to cover what are the classes inside this, how do you replicate the data, how do you do dynamic querying of data on the button click. So we'll do all those things here. How do you modify the AM level Java classes? How do you centralize the content? How do you do the transactions? And how do you get the handle of primary key with the Java coding? How do you create a new row? How do you query results? There are multiple things. We can do it with the Java coding. And generally we, in real time, will go with the Java coding only at this point. After completing all those things, then we'll go to the UI layer, where we'll try to understand what are the different components and how do you create templates and everything. And then, as I mentioned, we'll be working on the EJBs also as a data source here. The services layer, EJBs, web services and Java modules also in our class. And after completing all those things, then we'll go with Groovy expression. So what are Groovy expression? How do we use it in the validation level, in the ADF level? Why do we use it? After understanding that, then we'll go with page content navigations. Like how do you use it in the, what are components you have it in the page level content? How do you define it? What are layouts you have it? When to use what layout? So let me give an example here. Let's say this is my application, real time. So you see this application content here. I'll show you this small example. This is a complex application. It takes few minutes to load it out. Let's come back. So there is very complex layouts. We have to know which layout to use at what time. We'll work on those things very close to the real time again. And we'll try to see the design patterns, what all the design patterns you have to use it out. And then we'll try to work on PPRs and how do you skin the data. So this is generally we'll not do it in our real time. It is that the people will have a company specific CSS team. They'll be giving us some CSS. We'll be implementing it out in our application. Yeah, if you see this, so see this here. This is a complex application, complex UI design. So if you see here, I have defined all the layouts, right? See, and I have to know which layout to use at what time. Because let's say I'll give a small scenario. If I use a wrong layout here, I'll find a scrollable component here. I'll find a scrolling bar here, and this whole page is a different one, and this is a scrollable component, which looks very weird. So we have to know which component to use at what time, which layout to use at what time. So we'll design those architecture patterns in our class, and then we'll go with the task flows. We'll try to see what are the most commonly used task flows in the real time, very close to the real time components, and we'll try to work on a few examples also in this. Then we'll try to go with the navigation components and what is the best performance to go with what navigation when we go with it. We'll try to see multiple ways to create navigations, like through Java coding and through navigations, through drag and drops. So we'll try to use many things here. And then we'll go with the most important life cycle phases in terms of interview, not in terms of real time, but in terms of interview, this is the most commonly asked question. And what we'll understand, how do you work on this? And then we'll work on the security part, then deploying part, how do you deploy the application in the console? After completing all those things, we'll go with the 12C new features. What are new features? Hands-on. We'll try to have a hands-on experience on it. And then will come the ADF mobile. So this is the most advanced one till now. So even the Fusion Apps is working on ADF mobile now. So the market is very strong in ADF mobile, and we'll try to see how do you deploy the applications, how do you work on it, how do you create in the small applications in it. We'll try to see a basic flow of understanding so that you can work on it as per your own pace. After completing all those things, we'll work on an end-to-end example and a real-time scenario. So what it means is we'll try to work on a real-time project. This is what is my real-time project. Maybe we cannot run it, but we will try to see what all we have learned is useful or not with this application. I'll try to explain you this whole scenario. How did I build it, and what are the design patterns, and how did the architecture flow, and where did I use my Java coding, and why did I use it there. So what you can do is after completing this course, you can say that this is what you have worked on in your real-time projects. You can say that this is what I have worked on it, and I'll even share you this application also. So that, and it took me around 9 months to build it. You can find any of the requirements. Let's say a complex requirement, you can find it out in this. A simple requirement, you can find it out in this. What you can do is just go here, search it out. Let's say you want to get the handle of a table component. Let's give it as table. It will show you the contents here. How did I define a table here and everything. So you can use it as per your requirement. When you go forward, you'll understand what are all these things. And then I'll give you the interview question, most commonly asked interview questions, and resume write-up. So basically, I'll give my own resume here. I can add your own content and you can do it out. And we'll have interview-based content. Like what it means is like, let's say, I'll show you the content here. SurveyMonkey. 1 second. Okay, so let me just show you a small example on this. So this way it will be there. 1 second, let me copy this URL. I'll send you this URL and you'll be finding an exam here. So this is a way I'll try to show you. This is a small example. I'll try to send some certification questions very close to the certifications part. I'll try to give some scenarios in this way and what to use, what validation to use it out. We'll go very depth inside this. So we'll try to see what are all the things you can work on it in this way. So every week I'll send you this question and you have to answer me. And the moment you click on this button, I'll be able to see the content inside this. What all you are doing it out and what went wrong. And we can discuss this in the next class, coming class. And after that, I'll be giving you many assignments to work on, which are rated complex to simple ones. You can. So what I mean to say is like after completing this course, I would say at least you can work on the real-time projects very easily. Not finding out getting trained on ADF and you feel that you're not learned everything in real times. You can easily work on the real time. That's a guarantee I can give it to you. So any more questions here?
Before we start our next class, do we also get the list of the components or probably the JDeveloper versions and database editions?
Yes.
What all to download and install?
Yeah, I'll give you even the screenshots also. Like I'll just send you the screenshot components also, what to install and what not install. So I'll have document here. I made a document on this. I'll send you like how do you install it. I'll just send you a link of installation also. After installing, how do you work on it? I'll show you all the screenshots here. So we'll be working on the JDoP 11.1.7 version of .0 because .1 is cloud based. It is a very huge application. Don't use that. Use only 11.1.7.0. .1 is for Fusion applications. So use 1.7, and I will be working on the XC database. I'll see you the give you that also. 1 second. So I'll send you this also. Like how do you?
Shashank, I already have a 12.1.3 installed.
12.1.1
So can I continue using it?
1.3.
I already have a 12.1.3
Yeah,
installed.
and you can use it out in your own applications. Like, let's say if you want to build some application, but it might be little different. Like how do you create a Vivo? Let's say if you have a Vivo component, and what all we have it in the Vivo in 11.1.7 is different from the look and feel only. The look and feel is different from the 12.1.3. So we have everything, whatever we have it in 1.7 and 12.3 also. But at the end, I will try to see what all we have extra things in 12.1.3 beyond this.
Yeah.
So we can
So
use
which
it.
is okay that I can continue
Yes.
working on 12.1.3
So
instead of
yeah, you have
uninstalling
hands
that.
on it. If you have hands on, very well hands on it, you can work on it. Not an issue. But
Okay.
I mean, I would say it is not so stable yet. 12.1.3 is little stable, but 1.2 is also not so stable. But I'm not really sure how is it working for you because I had many issues with 12.1.3.
Okay. Because I just I did some couple of example pages before,
Okay.
so it worked for me like what you have shown today. Those kind of
Okay.
simple pages I tried to work
Yeah.
it on, but it worked for me. So
Okay. Maybe it is a simple thing now, so it's working fine. I guess yeah, we can use it out. Not an issue because we are anyways using the small things only, right? Yeah, Raj, we can even use 1.6 also. It's fine to use it, but we have many extra. Yeah, it is okay to do it, but we have many extra features in the 1.7. Okay. So any more questions? Anyone? Okay. So if you have no questions, then we'll stop it here and kind of see the next week. Uh, what is it, Raj? You're saying something? Can I get every class in a sense?
I mean, hello?
Yes, Raj.
Hello? Yeah,
Yes, Raj.
can I get class video session? I mean,
Yes. You'll get it out. You'll get it out the end of the class. Like let's say if we have done your
okay.
class on Saturday, Saturday evening or Sunday morning, you'll
Yeah.
get it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually,
Tell me.
from next time onwards, what is the timings? I mean,
It's the same timings from I mean 7:30 to
is it Sunday or Saturday?
both days, Saturday and Sunday.
Saturday and Sunday,
Yeah.
7:30 to.
10:30.
Okay. 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 Yeah. Fine.
Sure.
So every class after ending of the class, I will get the video. I mean,
Yes.
record also.
Yeah. So max in a day,
Okay.
one day you'll get it out because it takes around 2 to 3 hours to convert the video from this format
Mm-hmm.
to the video format. So by the time I'll send
Okay.
you the content.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Sure then. Bye all. Okay. Bye all.